Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast. And who dat? And before we get into any of this Saints talk, because they have a game just in less than 2 days now, and it will be against the Tennessee Titans in New Orleans, the Superdome. But like I said, before we get into it, we got to look at the mullet hawk or the mulhawk, whatever you want to call it. We got it all fresh and cleaned up for the start of the season. I probably could have cleaned got the 5 o'clock shadow off here and maybe made the mustache look a little bit better, but this mohawk or mullet, like I said, whatever you want to call it's looking clean now. I got a little 5 o'clock shadow going here on the sides, but it feels nice. So, but anyways, that's enough of that. I know some of you people, some of you out there, just tune in just for the mullet. So I had to highlight it there for a second. But there's some stuff to get into here before the week one game against the Saints. Some interesting stuff kind of happened that I was probably I wouldn't have been able to make this kind of stuff up, these stories up. And then also got the Saints injury report, and maybe I think we'll go through a player of the week and a hot take, and I'll see if I can develop a score here. So let's get into this right now. So can I get a menu? And the first thing I'm talking about when I was mentioning I couldn't even make this kind of stuff up. My buddy, he's a Raiders fan, so he just before the start of the season, they're the Raiders over there, Las Vegas. They're dealing with situations with Chris Jones not wanting to be with the team and bashing the team uh, on social media, like all people do nowadays. If you have anything rash to say about someone, you'll say it on social media, not to their face or in public. But so that's on brand for the Raiders. But what's even more on brand for the Saints is that they have a situation like that happen as well. But it's the last thing I would have ever suspected to happen, and that is Jake Hayner, the fourth round quarterback out of Fresno State for the Saints, getting popped for PEDs. That wasn't specific on what it was, if it was like testosterone or EPOs or steroids or anything like that, or even uh, Adderall has been one that pops up on people's drug tests sometimes. But little Jake Hayner, the 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 guy with the funny poses and who looked decent in preseason. Definitely the first two preseason games he looked good against the Chiefs and the Chargers, but kind of maybe his PEDs started to wear off in the last game against the Texans. But yeah, he popped up like I said just before the season starts with uh, a PED suspension, and that it just blows my mind that that's happening. That a quarterback, if nothing else, would be the one that is getting suspended for something like that. And it's 6 games too. So those they must have changed the rule on that because for the longest time, uh, PED suspensions were always just like 4 games, and then if you're a second time offender, it would go up to 6 or 8, and then if you do it a third time, you're pretty much like banned. You're at least suspended for an entire year. But yeah, just right out of the gate, he's suspended for 6 games. And the last player I can think of that got suspended for PEDs and got 6 games was DeAndre Hopkins. He got suspended last year due to last year's drug test, but I thought his PED suspension went up from 4 games to 6 games because he tried to tamper with the sample, the urine sample. But apparently, it doesn't matter now if you test positive for any kind of PEDs, you're getting suspended right for 6 games right out of the gate. So that's the only thing that kind of surprised me that it was just 6 games. But in all actuality, this doesn't really hurt the Saints all that much because hopefully Derek Carr stays healthy. So you're never going to see your third string quarterback anyways. It's always gonna, and you're, I would say that Jameis Winston looked better than Jake Haener in the preseason finale as well. So uh, on top of you've got the clear cut starter in Derek Carr, and then you have basically a clear cut backup in Jameis Winston. So you didn't really need Jake Haener. And having him on the 6 game suspension opens up a roster spot. So it's almost kind of helpful in a coincidental way, you know. So the Saints don't have to put him on the practice squad and worry about a team claiming him, and they just get basically a free roster spot because of it. So the only thing you really hope and pray is that if all be Derek Carr and Jameis Winston both getting hurt, but your chances of winning or doing anything if that happened are slim to none anyway. Slim to none anyways, because Jake Haener, at least in preseason, didn't show that he's a good enough player to lead the Saints to a winning record or playoffs. Not yet, at least. But he released a statement, and this is pretty much on brand, regurgitated garbage about pretty much every player that fails a drug test, PED drug test. This is basically similar to what this is almost like. I wonder if Jake Haener and Mark Ingram have the same lawyer or same agent, because this is basically exactly the same kind of stuff that Mark Ingram was saying when he failed his at the start of the 2018 season after having arguably his best season in 2017. I wonder why. Maybe those PEDs be rocking, be working pretty good. That sauce. But this is what he had to say. He released a statement, and again, this was probably written up and typed up by Jake Haener's agent or lawyer. But he said, I recently learned that I tested positive for a substance banned by the NFL this summer. So that they knew that it had happened. Maybe they knew before even the preseason games, you know, like before all of them at least, but just letting play the preseason games because they're irrelevant and you can't be I guess you can't be suspended for preseason games. I guess depending on what you do, if you do something bad enough, you'll just be exiled and blackballed from the NFL. So it's interesting that he said early in the summer. So the Saints must have knew earlier in the summer. So he'd already tested positive, like I guess shortly after he was drafted, and then that's on brand for the Saints to draft a player like that. Not wanting to be too hard on Jake Haener, but you know that just is kind of a dirty spot, you know, a smudge on his career, you know, before he can even get going. Because some people talk about DeAndre Hopkins possibly being a Hall of Famer, but with his PED suspension, I think little things like that can boot you out. But he went on to say, I still do not know how the substance got in my body. Yeah, as none of my samples or prescribed medication contain the banned ingredient, which I've heard about players getting like tainted substances or the mixers for all these like um, protein shakes and things like that. They use the same mixer for everything. So I guess picograms and things like that, like small amounts can get into a substance like a protein shake or any kind of thing like that, you know, that helps, you know, like what is it like trying to think of what they creatine and things like that would get mixed into it. So maybe you got a tainted substance. I'm not sure, but so continue to go on. Every little I just have to dig at like every little thing that's said here because it's comical when a player uh, fails one of these drug tests and then uh, try to defend it. You know, it's just regurgitated garbage for the most part. And he said, I would never knowingly cheat the game that I love. However, I must take full responsibility for the failed failed test. Well, you don't have any choice. I apologize to the Saints organization, my friends, my family for any distractions the suspension may cause, which luckily he's the third string quarterback, so uh, it shouldn't cause too much of a distraction. I am disappointed to be away from the team for the coming weeks, but I will learn and grow from this experience. I look forward to returning to the team as soon as possible. So that's kind of what you got. And he was a fourth round pick in the spring, and then he just completed 38 of 72 passes for 395 yards, a touchdown, and three interceptions. For some reason, even though I watched all the preseason games, did podcasts for everything, I don't remember him throwing three interceptions. I guess he threw one. I guess he threw one in the Chiefs game, like his first one of his first throws in the NFL. In the Chiefs game, he threw an interception, and then he threw two against the Texans. So yeah, I do a little digging and could remember. But yeah, that's enough on that story. It's just wild to me that your rookie quarterback, a little white boy out of Fresno State, who's buddies with Derek Carr, and is just not a big guy in general, is taking some type of PED. Maybe that's why he took it, to give him a little juice in his arm, or make him be able to bulk up so he can handle the contact and the hits that he might be taking now that he's at the NFL level. But it's just odd. It's wild. I would have never guessed that's who was going to fail a drug test and then be suspended for 6 games to start the season. But that's enough of that news, just nonsense. Let's get a little serious here. So we'll get into the injury report here, and then we'll get into some hot takes, player of the week, and game score. So we'll go day by day, and we have the full list here now for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And so we'll just go, we'll start at the top here. So Jimmy Graham, tight end, just rest is his listed as injury. So it didn't have any unspecific type of injury. And then he was limited on Wednesday, and then he was full on Thursday and full on Friday. And game status, I think it's just listed as unspecific just because it was rest. And then JT Gray, a defensive back, a special teams ace, shoulder, did not practice Wednesday, did not practice Thursday, and did not practice Friday. So he's out. You won't see him. It makes me feel a little bit better because I heard that his shoulder injury was kind of bad, but the fact that I haven't put him on IR yet, considering there's several short-term IR spots, all of them are still open. That makes me feel a little bit better about that. Never feel real great about an injury, but that makes me feel a little bit better. And then Marshawn Lattimore, this was the one that I was really concerned about. Like, if right out of the gate you're missing Marshawn Lattimore after missing him for the majority of last season, and hearing things about tenderness in the knee and knee soreness and swelling in the knee, you never want to hear anything like that with any type of sport or athlete. But he was just limited on Wednesday, but then he was full on Thursday, full on Friday, and his designation is just unspecific. But Marshawn Lattimore is a gamer. He's arguably one of the Saints. But you could argue he's maybe their best player, especially on defense. So he's going to play. I would be surprised if he didn't. Which I said I've already been surprised. I've been surprised by the Jake Haener nonsense. But then we have Kendra Miller, who I've kind of said, is he injury prone, or is that what we're dealing with, or was he going to be able to heal up from his knee injury that he got right before the Chargers game and then ended up playing anyways? But he's got a different injury now. The first couple injury reports that came out said that it was a knee still, like it was a knee injury, even though they first reported it as hamstring. But on the final injury report, it's listed as a hamstring. So I think that was like a mix-up in information between the Saints and the NFL and their whole injury report, how they designate players. But he did not practice on Wednesday due to the hamstring. He did not practice due to the hamstring on Thursday and did not practice Friday either. But somehow, kind of odd and weird situation, even though he didn't practice all week. Could it be like the game against Chargers? He's still listed as questionable, but I would be very surprised if he was to somehow magically heal up and be ready to play again. I think it'd be too risky to try to play him after not practicing all week with a hamstring injury because those things can be just as tricky as a knee, maybe not as severe unless it's a torn hamstring or something of that nature. But something like that can linger all season if you don't monitor it right. But I imagine Jamal Williams is going to get the majority of the load in this game against the Titans. And then on to Ryan Ramczyk, offensive tackle, right tackle. He's just similar to Jimmy Graham. You know, he's got some bum knees that always need veteran rest for a 320 pound, 6'7" offensive lineman. But he was limited on Wednesday, and then he was full on Thursday, full on Friday, just like Marshawn Lattimore and the unspecific. I mean, he's going to play. I'd be very surprised if he didn't play. That they were doing that all last year with him, having him either not practice on Wednesday or having him limited on Wednesday, and then he would at least practice full on Friday and played all year like that. He's just got some. I think he's got some degenerative knee issues that they're really having to keep a close eye on. So, and then this one shouldn't be really surprised because he had to go get groin surgery just recently, not that long ago, just like a week or two ago. Traquan Smith, wide receiver, groin injury, did not practice Wednesday, did not practice Thursday, and did not practice Friday, and he's out. So that's not a surprise really at all about Traquan Smith. But really, stepping back and looking at this list due to injuries, I mean, it could be this is one of the shortest injury reports the Saints have had probably in the last 2 or 3 seasons. But the players I am a little concerned about not being able to have in this game is definitely JT Gray because I mean he's like a Pro Bowl special teams ace, coverage man, gunner, and not having him and Saints special teams already look kind of shaky. Special teams coverage look kind of punt coverage and kickoff coverage look kind of shaky in the preseason. So having your best gunner out that concerns me a little bit. And then missing Kendra Miller, you know, it's kind of bad that a rookie is going to be missing like not being able to get those snaps, and then obviously you're having to dump a heavier load onto Jamal Williams. But it could be a lot worse. Some of your marquee star elite players could be hurt, but there's none of those guys on this list. Not yet, at least. And then onto the Titans injury report. It's even better than the Saints, even shorter. There's a couple more players on it, but only looks like only one player might not start. So they had a Trey Avery's cornerback hamstring limited Wednesday, limited Thursday, but then he was downgraded to did not practice on Friday, so he's out. And then Harold Landry, linebacker, he's like a pass rushing outside linebacker. He's a really good player. I think he may have been hurt last year, but he had abdomen injury, was limited Wednesday, limited Thursday, and full practice on Friday. He's listed as questionable, but I would be surprised if he didn't play. And then Dylan Radunz, offensive tackle, uh, had a knee injury, was dealing with a knee injury. He was limited on Wednesday, limited on Thursday, and full on Friday, and was listed as questionable. But once again, I'd be surprised if he doesn't play or at least isn't active. And then Traylon Burks, wide receiver, had a knee, and he was, even though he was listed with the knee, he was full practice all week. So I'm sure he'll play. Arden Key was linebacker also. It's like the other pass rushing outside linebacker for the Titans. Uh, he was originally drafted by the Raiders. That's why I'm a little bit familiar with him. Uh, had a calf injury, but he was full all week. So once again, I'm sure he'll play. And then Will Levis, who similar to Jake Haener, he's their backup after Ryan Tannehill and Malik Willis. So him being injured is kind of irrelevant. You know, want the young guy to be healthy, want the rookie to be healthy, but that doesn't really matter whether he'll play or not. But he had a quad injury and he was full all week, and he may not even be active because he's the third quarterback. And then DeAndre Hopkins uh, just had rest, didn't practice on Wednesday, and then was limited on Thursday, uh, and then was full on Friday. And then same thing with pretty much the exact same thing with David Westco, tight end. He was just rest, didn't practice Thursday, and then was limited uh, on Thursday, and then full on Friday. So pretty much everyone on the Tennessee Titans injury report I would expect to play, except Trey Avery's, who I guess kind of like Kendra Miller must be dealing with some kind of tricky hamstring situation because he was practicing earlier in the week and then something must have flared up on Friday. So that's the injury report. So you know, a lot like most teams, you know, maybe not the Saints in recent history. At least week one, the majority of them are healthy, so you get to see the Saints at full strength at least for 1 week. So try to keep our fingers crossed that it stays like that. And then let's see here, uh, going to picks, going to player of the game is what we're going to next. And uh, my player of the game is, and I haven't seen a lot of people call his name out because a lot of people are saying, you know, it's going to be Michael Thomas or it's going to be Derek Carr, but possibly could end up being Derek Carr's favorite weapon early in the season, and definitely looked like his favorite weapon in their only drive in the preseason against the Chiefs. I'm going with Juwan Johnson, and I think he's going to be the Saints' leading receiver in this game out of the tight end position, and I think he's going to have like seven catches, 100 yards and a touchdown in this game. So I think Juwan Johnson, even though he had some good games last year, uh, had some 100-yard games and multiple touchdown games, but I think with Derek Carr being his quarterback, he's going to kind of have a coming out party in this game. And then my hot take in this game. I only was able to really come up with one hot take because I know there's a lot of people saying Blake Grupe is going to kick a game-winning field goal at the gun, and I'm just like, if that happened, that'd be awesome. But I'm not betting on that. I don't want that to happen. Please don't put us in that situation yet. But there's some statistics behind this one a little bit because I don't think Derrick Henry is going to rush for 100 yards in this game because he hasn't done that since 2020, week one of 2020, and he's only done it once in his career, which was week one of 2020. So Derrick Henry kind of shows that he's kind of a bit of a slow starter in the season when it comes to running the ball, and the fact that he's 29, almost 30 years old. I just can't imagine that he's going to come out and I'm probably jinxing us right now by saying this, come out and rush for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns in week one. I just don't see it happening. History would say that it's not going to happen. And then score. I, I, I'm not 100% sure if the Saints defense is going to be as good as it was last year. I know they kind of started kind of slow last year, and they got a lot of their key contributors on that team defense are older players. I'm bagging on Derrick Henry over here, even though the running back position doesn't have the type of value that some of these other positions have, and doesn't have the longevity of these other positions. But Saints have some key players and stars on their defense are older. You got Marcus May, Tyrann Matthews are both 30. Uh, Demario Davis is in his mid 30s. Cameron Jordan is in his mid 30s. So if those guys don't play at least as good as they did last year, there could be a drop off. But I'm gonna show some confidence in this defense, like right out of the gate, and I'm gonna predict the score that the Saints are gonna keep the Tennessee Titans under 20 points, under 20, under 21 points, under 3 touchdowns. So they're going to hold them to 17 points. And the Saints, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there predicting the Saints are going to put a 40 burger on the Tennessee Titans, or at least that's what they're hoping, or they're going to at least get 28 points, score at least 4 touchdowns. I think there's a maturation period between Derek Carr and the offense, and those games will hopefully come. But I don't see this being a blowout at all. This is probably going to be a tight game down to the wire. So with the 17 points to go for Tennessee, the Tennessee Titans, I got the Saints scoring just 24 points. So they're going to win by one score. So I have the Saints winning 24-17, and I'm ready for it. I can hardly wait. I hope everything goes off without a hook and Saints look good. I'm here. I'm here for a blowout, but I just don't see it happening. So, uh, who dats? I hope you're prepared and can contain your excitement for a couple more days. But anyways, I think that's all I have for you. So, who dat? And can I get a check,